welcome to Crisis in Perception. This is a systems-level mini-explainer. Today, we're examining The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown. This is not a summary. This is structural analysis.
So with that in mind, let's just jump right in.
What we're going to do here is really map out the underlying system that Brené Brown's research uncovers. And it's a system that, believe me, affects pretty much all of us. All right, first things first, to really get a handle on this, we have to be able to see the system itself. So let's try and identify this invisible social architecture that's running in the background of our lives. So at its heart, what are we really talking about? Well, it's a kind of social design, a set of unwritten rules, And these rules tie our basic human worth to all these external things. It's all built on a pretty flawed idea that your value isn't inherent. Nope, it's conditional. It all depends on how well you perform, how polished you look, and how good you are at keeping your emotions under lock and key. And this quote just nails the result of that system. Brené Brown calls it the hustle for worthiness. It's this feeling that we're standing on the outside of our own lives, constantly auditioning for our own value through this nonstop cycle of performing, perfecting, and proving. Okay, so if this is a system, it's got to have some rules, right? Some kind of operating manual. So how does it actually work? What are the mechanics behind it all? Here's a great way to think about it. It's like an invisible thermostat. It's just always on, quietly recalibrating the social temperature. It's constantly adjusting the price of what it means to be enough. So what was considered worthy yesterday, it might not cut it today. The target is always moving. And this is where it gets really interesting, because every system has an incentive structure. On one side, you've got the behaviors that get rewarded. Composure, a perfectly curated identity, racking up achievements, being predictable. This is what the system wants. And on the other side, all the messy human stuff. Vulnerability, real authenticity, imperfection, taking a risk. In this system, those things don't just get ignored, they're actively punished. So what's the outcome of living inside this incentive structure? Well, it pretty much unfolds in 3 steps. First, we start to police ourselves. We internalize that constant judgment and become our own watchtowers. Then step 2, shame becomes the tool, the emotional regulator that keeps us in line. And finally, to defend against that shame, we adopt our go-to shield, perfectionism. Okay, let's talk more about that shield, perfectionism, because it is, without a doubt, one of the system's most powerful and, frankly, most damaging tools. And as Brené Brown's research makes so incredibly clear, this whole defense mechanism, this entire shield, it's born from one single powerful emotion. And that emotion is shame. We have to be really clear here. This isn't just guilt, feeling bad about something we did. Shame is the intensely painful feeling that we are bad. It's that core, gut-wrenching fear that we're fundamentally flawed, and that if people see the real us, we'll be seen as unworthy of connection. We'll be cast out. So what do we do to avoid that pain? We build a shield. We start lugging around what Brené Brown calls a 20-ton shield. The thinking goes, if I can just look perfect and do everything perfectly, then I can avoid all the pain of blame, judgment, and shame. And this is a super important point. We have to separate perfectionism from healthy ambition. They're not the same thing. Healthy striving is self-focused. It asks, how can I improve? But perfectionism, it's totally other-focused. It's driven by one question: what will they think? See the difference? It's not about genuine growth. It's about managing what other people see. So this begs a pretty big question, right? If this whole system is so painful and honestly so counterproductive for us as individuals, why on earth does it stick around? Why is it so durable? Well, it persists because it gets reinforced from all sides. For one, our institutions and economic systems often benefit from it. They reward people who are compliant and predictable. Then you have cultural amplification. Think about media presenting these carefully edited, photoshopped fantasies as if they're reality. And finally, you have digital scaling. Social media platforms have basically turned comparison into a constant, global 24/7 competition. And that right there, comparison, is the fuel that makes the whole engine run. The entire worthiness system is powered by it. It creates this absolutely crushing paradox, the constant pressure to somehow fit in and stand out at the exact same time. Okay, so this all leads us to the central mistake we make in all of this, the core misinterpretation at the very heart of the struggle. We feel all this pressure, don't we? The pressure to perform, to be perfect, to please everyone. And when we inevitably fall short, because we're human, we turn inward and ask ourselves that one devastating question: what is wrong with me? And that right there, that is the crisis in perception. We misinterpret the constant pressure from this external system as a personal flaw. We take a huge systemic problem and we diagnose it as our own individual defect. This is so crucial to understand because our personal experience with this connects directly to much bigger systems. We live in a culture that basically equates productivity with self-worth, where being exhausted is worn like a badge of honor, and where social comparison has become a form of currency. Our personal struggle isn't happening in a vacuum. It's a symptom of a much larger design. And so, this brings us to one last, really provocative thought. If we can accept that this hustle for worthiness is a feature of the system and not a bug in ourselves, well, that changes everything, doesn't it? It forces us to ask a completely new question. What does real, authentic connection actually require of us now? Crisis in perception exists to strengthen your ability to see the systems shaping what feels normal.